Hey there, my name is Hammond Bundy. I'm one of the creators of People's Rights, and I'm also a state assistant in Idaho. And I'm here to talk to you about and discuss the NOD system, or NOD system, Neighbor Organized Defense. Now, one thing that's important to understand is that this Neighbor Organized Defense is in the area. This is the entire area, and this is the organized defense in the entire area. And so there's certain elements of this system of defense, and we're going to break them down. I'm going to break them down and talk briefly about them, and then I'm going to clean the whiteboard and we're going to go into more detail. Okay, so elements of a NOD system, Neighbor Organized Defense. One, and probably the first one you want to work on as an area assistant, is the 10 by 10 response. And that is when someone is in need, when someone is in trouble, and it's imminent, 10 people will show up in 10 minutes, 100 people show up in 100 minutes, 1,000 people show up in 1,000 minutes, 10,000 people show up in 10,000 minutes, 100,000 people show up in 100,000 minutes, so on and so forth. And that is to bring people together, to surround somebody whose rights are being infringed upon, and to secure those rights, okay? Now, I won't go into too much detail about that, but one thing, I will, but not right now. One thing that I want to identify is that the area assistants should organize this. And there should be at least 10 people in your area for every hour of the day, or hour of the week, or hour of the month, that are willing to respond within 10 minutes. And that load should be shared among your entire area, okay? Another element of a NOD system in your area is several autonomous sound teams. And this is, sound team is small organized units of neighbors in defense. This would be, we're going to talk about, but they're autonomous. I'm going to go into a lot more detail here. But they should be organizing, and they do it themselves. The people in your areas, they get together, they say, hey, you live pretty close to me, you want to get together and you want to start, training, you want to start, learning how to do certain things. Let's get together, let's start communicating. They might even, they might get 6, 7, 8 guys, and they might feel like they need to create a command structure. But that happens with them doing that by themselves, and they are not billed to the area assistants, but the area assistants are encouraging people to do that. We're going to talk more detail about that as well. They're also in the NOD system within the area, or in the area, going on the area, there should be a PSS plan. And this is the people supporting sound. Sound is what? The people supporting the small organized units of neighbors in defense. This would be like supplies and equipment. This would be family support if they had to, leave their job, leave their families to actually go defend for a long period of time. Well, guess what? All the other people who are not doing this should be supporting in many different ways. And it is the area assistant's responsibility to organize that. So that's the breakdown. Now let's get to the nitty gritty. Erase this here. Okay, so let's first talk about the 10 by 10 response. Let's go into more detail. And let's actually make some practical examples of this. And there are several examples of that we've already done this, that areas have successfully done this. In fact, this is what happened to my family, and this is what has happened, throughout 2020 to actually secure rights in Idaho and other states like Washington, and other states as well. So 10 by 10 response. Let's talk about it. 10 by 10 response. Okay, let's give the scenario that you have a family here, and they are in their home. Let's draw a little home here. Why not, right? They're in a home, and they got the fire going, and they all of a sudden have 5 masked bandits. They got their little mask on here, right? And they're coming in with their guns, and you know, it doesn't matter if they're a street criminal or government criminals, and they come to force their way in to this family, right? We're not going to talk about the reasons, right? This family's in their home, living, and so, first of all, this family, the mother and the father of this family, they have a responsibility. And their responsibility, number one, is to protect their family. And to do that the best they can. To protect their family, to protect their home, to prepare their home, and to be able to defend their home and their family for 10 to 20 minutes. Now that's a long time, I know. But it's just practical. Because, you know, this thing just doesn't work fast. I mean, they got to defend their home for 10 to 20 minutes. And then what happens is you have people all over the area, all over here, good, honest neighbors. They might be at work, or they might be in the field, or which is at work, I guess. They might be all over, right? And let's say there's a couple hundred of them. And they're all over just doing their normal day business. And this family sees these 5 bandits, masked bandits, come to, you know, knock down their door, take their stuff, hurt their family, and maybe even do worse, right? And so the father and the mother have done a good job at preparing their home to defend themselves for 10 to 20 minutes. But the very first thing they should do is they need to get on the phone or through the messaging system, and they need to start the clock of people coming to help. So they're going to contact their area assistants, okay, immediately. And there's some tools to do that. If they type SOS to the People's Rights number that they're getting messages from, it'll immediately identify or send a message to all the area assistants that person who sent the message is in trouble and needs help. And we're going to build even better tools that when you do SOS, it responds back and says, what is your need? And you could put it in quickly, and where is your location? You put it in. And then the area assistants will get all that information. But right now, when you do SOS, it sends the message and sends your contact information to the area assistants, and the area assistants will then have to text back or call back and get the details of what's going on. So there's time right there. This time is ticking, right? It's ticking. And remember, someone's knocking at the door, and you need to be defending yourself for 10 to 20 minutes. As soon as they get the message, then the area assistants send this message out to everybody in the area. They send it out through the mass messaging system in People's Rights, and it goes to everybody as quickly and fast, and it's basically saying that this family is in need, and they need help. They need help immediately, and whoever's closest, get to them, right? Get to them as fast as you can, because you know, you can't hold off forever, and there may be more than just 5. Okay, so you get the picture. You're sending the message out, and what do all these people do? Well, if they can, they respond, and they help the family to defend their home. They respond, and they strengthen this barrier. They strengthen this barrier. Now that might be simply as coming and filming, right? That also might be coming and physically standing and saying, you're not going to help, you're not going to hurt this family. Or it might be coming in full armed gear saying, absolutely, we will defend this family, right? And we need to talk more about that and when and what response should happen. Now, you see the blessing and the great benefit of People's Rights to every person in the area. You see what it creates? And guess what happens? This little family in here, they get their lives preserved, their property preserved, their virtues preserved. They get their liberties and freedoms preserved. They get to be protected. And that's what gets to happen here. That's what happens. So, and it's happening because neighbors are responding, and there's a system that allows it to and help facilitate it happening. It's all about neighbors responding, to other neighbors' needs and protecting this little family right here. Okay, now there's some other aspects to the 10 by 10 response, because it does say 10 by 10, and remember we talked about the 10 and then the 100. So to help this happen faster, the area assistants should get volunteers for each period of time, whether it's daily, weekly, monthly, hourly. They should get people to commit to responding, and they should get at least 10 people, at least 10 people to agree to respond. And so to give you an example, let's say so-and-so right here agreed that during this period of time, between, weekdays between 10 a.m. and 10 p.m., he's going to be able to respond. He's going to be one of those responders. This person here, the same. Let's say this one is, 10 p.m. to 10 a.m., right? And the area assistants are going to get 10 people that commit, at least 10 people that commit to responding for a 24-hour period, a full week, 7 days, a full month. And maybe that system cycles, right? Depending on your area. The idea is that when the message goes out to everybody in the area, everybody tries to respond as soon as they can, right? But the 10 or more have committed to responding for that time, and they get there the fastest. They get there as fast as they can. And they understand that, if they're on call, if you will, if they've agreed to that time, then when they go somewhere, they need to have their gear with them. They need to have their packs. They need to have whatever they think they need. Or maybe they're at the grocery store and they just say, I've got to drop what I'm doing right now. It doesn't mean they stop living and stay at home and wait for a message. It just means that, one, is they're in the area. 2, they're available in signal. And 3, they're geared and equipped and ready to go. And then they live their life just like normal, and when they get a call, they go. And we always hope that we don't get calls, right? That's the 10 by 10. Now, don't forget that everybody in the area is notified, and that everybody in the area should respond if they can. Because the 10 might get there first because they're equipped and ready. And then remember, 100 in 100 minutes. So all the other people in the area can't just say, the 10 got it, right? No, they need to respond. They need to come. Because the 10 might not be enough. They might need more. And then depending on the situation and depending on the threat, the area assistants might reach out to the neighboring area assistants and notify them, and then they notify everybody in their area, and then all of them come as well. And so on and so forth. And that's how the People's Rights Network system works. That's how the 10 by 10 response works in the People's Rights Network. And that is how we as neighbors are going to turn this thing around, where the infringements upon our rights and where criminals coming into our neighborhoods or whatever might be the case won't have much effect on us. So now, that's just one element of the NOD system, remember? One element. And I want to emphasize that all of these articles, all these details are on People's Rights if you go to Area Action. If you go to the Area Action button, they're all on People's Rights, and you can read about it and understand it. Now, let's move on, okay? Good stuff, right? I think so. something that has been, thought of and worked on and used for many years, and now we're able to implement it across the country and really benefit people in their freedom and their liberty and in their rights and feeling safe and secure by living free as a free people in the United States of America. Okay, so now let's go here, and we're going to talk about, back to my notes here, we're going to talk about the several autonomous sound teams. Remember, sound stands for small, organized, units, sorry, of neighbors in defense. I know you can't read that, it's intentional, okay, because I wrote really fast, so I didn't even worry about spelling or nothing. Okay, sound, small organized units of neighbors in defense. That's what it is. And that's what sound stands for. Now, don't get this mixed up. The sound teams are completely autonomous. What they are is just like in my little neighborhood, I have two sons that one's 15 and one's 17, or almost, they're really close to being 15 and 17. And with them and a couple other neighbors that I've talked to in our area, in our neighborhood, we're going to create a sound team, small organized units of neighbors in defense. And what we're going to do is we're going to help each other get equipped, what to get equipped with. When I'm talking about anywhere from, gear, tactical gear, weapons, communication tools, different supplies, medical, so on and so forth. We're going to get equipped. And then we're going to start training with each other. We're going to start training on how to secure a home, how to secure an area, how to defend an area, how to clear an area, how to travel, how to communicate. All of these things that need to be done, we're going to be training on that, and we're going to be working on them. So that, let's say we go a couple times a month, and maybe we're working on our communication. We might have radios, we know what frequencies, we might have earpieces, and so that we can equip or communicate with each other in an action type scenario. We've got our weapons, we've got plenty of ammunitions, we've got medical supplies and training, and we're doing this so that we can become an actual unit, organized units of defense. And our job is to basically, when needed, to become a team of defense. And it might be simply helping somebody clean out their basement because there was a flood. Or it might be actually standing and surrounding a neighbor's home in physical, defense with our arms and hands. It might be anywhere from one extreme to the other. But the important thing is that these teams are autonomous, meaning they do not, I'm just going to read this to you. Each area should have multiple sound teams. Within the team, each person should be communicating, training, preparing, equipping, and working closely with the other team members to build a relationship of trust with each other, with each person in the sound team. So you got let's say you've got 7 people in your, and you guys should be, working together, communicating together, helping each other, training with each other, doing all these things with each other, right? And you should be creating a strong sound team. Okay? This is important, but it's also important to know that you are autonomous. You may want to create a command structure among yourselves. That's up to you. That's up to you and your relationship. Let me keep going on here. Sound teams are autonomous and are not subordinate to anybody but themselves as a team. They should have established ways to receive information from the area assistants and be ready to act in physical defense of the people in that area at any time. So remember the whole 10 by 10 response? Well, if there's an area assistant, or the area assistants send out a message to everybody saying that so-and-so is in trouble, well, that message is of course going to go to the team members of the sound. It's going to go to the team members of the sound. And the sound team, you know, can independently act, like say maybe they're close by, they can independently act and go and help that person, and they should do that. But they also may communicate with each other and say, hey, are we going to go as a team, and are we going to respond to this need or this threat or whatever it might be? And then they can pull together, you know, make a plan and go act. That might happen. Let's say a person's in need. Area assistants send a message out to everybody. The team members of sound, one team member of sound gets it. He shows up here first. He may be even one of the 10 by 10. He may be one of the 10 that have committed. He shows up here. He might assess the information, and then he sends it to all his others, you know, or to a team leader or whatever, and say, hey, you need to get down here. This is important. We need to be here as a team. And then that team will respond. Okay? But that's totally up to them. The important thing is that you're prepared, that you're trained, that you're equipped, and that your mind and spirit is in the right place to be able to respond to a need. Now, the thing about it is you should have in an area, as far as the nod system, you should have a whole bunch of sound teams. A whole bunch of sound teams, as many as you can get. Now remember, you as area assistants, you don't create these. You're just encouraging them. And let me give you a little bit of something that we're going to do in Idaho, and I'm encouraging the area assistants to do in their areas. And that is, whenever you have an area meeting where the people get together, you get a glass jar, like a mason jar or something glass, put it on the table in front of the meeting, and then once you start getting these sound teams going, you tell them, and remember, you're not the one that's actually going to form them. You're just going to encourage them to start organizing them, start getting together. And then once they've formed a team, or when they've done any training, or when they've got any equipment, when they've progressed as a sound team, tell them to put a penny in the jar. And then the whole area can see that jar fill up and know that their sound teams are getting organized, they're training themselves, they're functioning, and they're active. But yet, there's no list. You should never have a list of the sound team, who's part of them, who they are, where they live. That should never be, because you're not to control them as area assistants. The sound teams are autonomous, but they can come in and flip a penny or two in there, depending on their activity, and you can see as an area, you can see the progress of the sound teams within your area, and you can hold it up and show the whole area, all the members of the area, of the progress as well. And that might be little or great. And then if it's small and there's no progress or not progress, you can keep encouraging them. Get together as a sound teams. Get your equipment. That is the sound team, and that is the wisdom of the small organized units of neighbors in defense. That is one of the elements of a nod system in your area. Now, we are going to talk about the final element in the nod system, which is what is keyed as the PSS Plan. Okay? PSS Plan, which stands for People, supporting sound. Okay? People supporting sound. People supporting the small organized units of defense. Okay, so you're going to have a balance of people, right? You're going to have a balance of people. You're going to have people that are in the sound team. You know, they're active in the active. And then you're going to have other people that are not in the sound team, and they need to be working and, you know, as needed, they need to be working and supporting the sound team. And the area assistants need to put together a PSS plan. Now, let me read this. Sound teams support and supply. So there's kind of two categories. There's support and supplies, right? And then there's family support and supplies. Actually, I think this is support and equipment. I mean, it could be supplies too. Okay, I'm going to explain because they seem similar, but they're different. Basically, this would be, let's say, the sound team. Let me just read this because I think it's worded better than I'm. If an individual on the sound team does not have the means to purchase all of his gear needed, then the people in the area should provide the gear. Now, first of all, it is the person's responsibility to supply his own gear and equipment, personal gear and equipment. But if for some reason they can't, or the sound teams need something that's a little above and beyond what an individual is, should supply himself, then the people should get together and they should equip the sound teams. They should get together so that they can obtain whatever these sound teams need. And the sound teams would just whisper it in the ear of the area assistants and saying, hey, we're needing this equipment. And the area assistants would say, okay, sound teams need this, or maybe they know they need it, it's just practical. And the areas can say, okay, like maybe they need an antenna for a base station. Maybe they need, who knows, there could be all kinds of, maybe they need all kinds of things. Well, the people should make the sound team members get all that equipment. They should work together to get it, and the area assistants should facilitate that. I just want to emphasize that it needs to be reasonable, and also that the sound team members are responsible for their own equipment. But you might run into somebody that just doesn't have the means to do it, but he's a good, able-bodied person and willing to, act. And so that would be appropriate for if the people in the area chose to, that'd be appropriate to help that individual get equipped. Okay, now, second, family support and supplies. This is where if the sound team member has to be active for a long period of time, let's say for a couple weeks or a month. Let's say they have to leave their job because it's important that they defend their family and their neighbors. It's more important than their job. There's many times throughout history where they had to leave their fields and pick up the sword. Let's say they do that and they're in active, basically, defense of their neighbors' rights, and they have to stay that way. Well, it is the responsibility of the other people in the other neighbors in the area to support that person, their family, their property, and do the things that they need. Let me read this. Sound team family support supplies in times of active defense. When an individual of the sound team is actively defending the people in the area and cannot reasonably provide for himself or his family, then the other people in the area should provide and care for his family and property. Area assistants are responsible for communicating with the families and knowing of their needs during sound team active defense. Okay, makes sense. This is an element that is so important because you can't expect a person to go and defend other people and then watch their family, you know, basically not be able to survive. And watch their home, you know, get taken and all those things. You can't expect somebody to go and defend and their family to suffer and their property to be lost and all of that. So it is the duty of the other team members. Now, part of this actually, I could make another point, but also is to making sure that the sound team, you know, has food and supplies when they're in active duty. And this doesn't matter even if they're in a day, right? If they have to leave their home and defend, and they're defending, the other people need to make sure that these people get what they need. They get food, they get water, they get ammunition, they get whatever they need. This is the duty of the other people, and it is part of the PSS plan that should be implemented and prepared by the area assistants and all the other people in the area. So there you have it. You have the NOD system, which the elements of a NOD system is a 10 by 10 response plan, several autonomous 2 to 12 man sound teams, small organized units of neighbors in defense, and a PSS plan, people supporting sound. And that would be supporting the sound members and supplies and equipment, food supplies, and their families when they're in active defense, helping their families to survive and get the things that they need, protecting their property while they're gone. This is a system that can be successful, should be successful, and it makes sense of what people, you know, of how we can defend ourselves in our neighborhoods. And I hope that you have not only enjoyed this, but internalized it, seen the wisdom of it, felt the spirit of it, and will take it and implement it. Thank you.